Okay, now the problem with this switch is it does not reverse. It's for the lathe, my Sheldon lathe. I don't think it needs to reverse, but it has the ability, and I would like to be able to bring it back to this switch. Now you can see that it was disabled here, and then again here. There should be a tab right in this area, and this tab should go through this wall into here for contacting this contact. That would allow to have the X configuration on a three-phase motor in order for the phases to reverse, or for the motor to reverse. So I'm going to proceed to try to disassemble this switch and see if I can braze the copper back on. I have salvaged this piece of copper here from some stock lying around. I think it should work. Let's get started. I removed this piece from the switch body. And now I'm going to try to disassemble the different segments in order to try to be able to braze pieces of the copper back into those locations without damaging the insulating portion of the switch. And let me see if I can do that, and once I get it disassembled, before disassembling it, one thing that always helps, even you take pictures, sometimes the orientation of parts can be confusing. So I always try to mark things. As you can see, I've done here using a white paint stick. I've marked here, 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 here with the dots kind of corresponding that these are all in line, and this is the neutral or off position with the switch assembled. And then just for further reference, I gave myself 3 dots across this way and 2 dots across this way. That way I'm assured of being able to put this back together. You can also scribe these marks, use a file to make these marks. Here I wrote this is the outside and the corresponding nut on that end, and then this end here is where the handle goes. So I just try to give myself enough alignment marks to know that the reference of each of these separate plates to go back together, and not have to struggle or get frustrated in the process. So okay, here's a couple of pictures of my setup. I didn't get any pictures or video of the other setup, but this is about the same way. You know, you gotta do the best you can to keep everything aligned while you're doing the brazing, using whatever you have for clamps, vise, etc. You see I have put the paste flux on there, and I also have brazing rod with paste on it as well, but I find that this seems to work better. Okay, and here we are right after applying the braze. It's still too hot to touch, but you can see I'll have to file some and cut it down to length so it'll fit back into the switch and work properly. Alright, and we continue. Okay, and here it is reassembled, the switch. You can see the recovered electrodes here and here. These are the pieces that I had to add back on in order to restore reverse to this switch. The way this switch works, for those that might not understand, what's the best way to show this? Maybe from above, but in the off position, obviously there's no power traveling from this side to this side. When the switch is then put into forward, we have the current traveling straight through from these 3 terminals to these 3 terminals on this side without interruption. And you can configure those wires for your forward on your, in this case, lathe, however you need to. And then let me switch it to reverse. Okay, now switching it to reverse, what then happens is you still have current traveling straight across this contact to this contact, but when you get to here, these two are now connected, as well as these two on this side are connected. And what that essentially does is that creates 2 wires that are crossed in order to have reverse in a 3-phase motor. So there, again, there's continuity between these two, this one and the one on the back side, and then these two. I don't have a tripod, or I would try to give you a display on that. Let me try to set something up. Be right back. Okay, so again, this is still in the reverse position, so if I touch these two together, you can hear the audible sound for continuity, which means that that's connected. Those two contacts are connected. And you see when I touch here, you don't have it because those are not connected. Go back here, it's connected. And I'll switch it into forward position and you'll see what I'm talking about as well. Okay, now I've switched the switch to forward, and you'll see